Multiple people had sources, huh?
His agent put it out.
Oh, he did? Oh, there you go. That's good. Got to follow Twitter, man.
Hey, Brian. David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Dak was talking last night about not chasing big plays. Mike was talking about it in the discipline. Could you just go into that a little bit more and how much of that, to not do that, is to have personnel packages with diverse skill sets that you sprinkle in throughout a game so you're not chasing something?
Yeah, I think, if you watch the opening sequence of the game, I was really proud of just the overall tempo that we were operating at. Our play style, our pace of operation, we want to go fast. You saw us rolling multiple people in there. Elements and weather conditions always will be a part of it. I thought what he did a great job of is just kind of knowing the situation of the game, knowing the situation of the weather, and then executing the plays to the best of his ability under that umbrella. We're always going to be attacking. We're always going to be aggressive. We're going to find our plays. But there's also the time where if a shot is there and it's deemed like, I might have a chance for this one, but the better decisions to check it down. I thought he did a really, really good job of that yesterday. And that's something that we know, again, we want to protect the football. Okay, it all starts with that. We want to protect football. I was proud of our guys. Only 2 ops, I think, yesterday. The screen play that Tony had where the guy came and knocked it out. Really cool thing there when you watch a film, really, we always emphasize cover and finish, right? And so if you watch Zach did a great job on the mug linebacker. He was there, but Tyler Biadasz is covering down and finishing. He's actually the one that falls on the ball. And then there was a decision early in the game on a corner throw that the corner kind of fell off and knocked off. But for the most part, we were really clean with our decision-making and ball security in that environment and in those weather conditions. It was tough. It was a tough night.
Clarence Hill, 4-Star Telegram. The weather plan, did y'all come in the week with 2 different plans and just talk about y'all's ability to adjust and how you prepare for those things?
So you're always aware. We always talk about it. The best one to talk to are the kickers. The kickers always know the weather. If you talk to those guys, they're always aware of wind and weather and rain and stuff like that. So you talk to Brian, those guys, they're always on top of it. But we always want to be flexible enough. So there's certainly things that we know if it's bad conditions, whether it's rain, whether it's wind, whether the field is slick, we've got a plan of where we want to go to. But then you also bring it into the week of practice. And so usually when practice ends, we'll do a period or 2. We did a couple days twice this week. Practice is over. Not only do QB center exchange with those guys, getting used to and being comfortable with it, but also throwing routes to the skill guys because it is different. Some guys like to wear gloves. Some guys want to take their gloves off when it's wet. Felt like we repped it well. The hard thing last night is to just – again, we were kind of monitoring before the game. We thought, okay, it might get out of here before the game. So, it rains at first, and we all take our big jackets and stuff off. Then it comes back again. We just could never get a flow of it. Dak had his visor right, and he was trying to get his visor off and back on. But, again, I thought we were prepared for it, but it was sloppy. It was a tough night.
Ready to speak to preparation. I know you and Mike talked. Have you always done that? That's something that Mike is part of. With your dad. Just talk about just.
Yeah, when you're
different game plans.
Yeah, when you're Mike and you're coming from Green Bay, or you're me coming from New York with the Jets and Seattle, you're used to weather, wind, bad field surfaces. I remember playing a big game up in New England in an absolute monsoon. And the very next day, the next week they were going to Dubai, they literally ripped up the grass and put turf in. It was that bad of a day. So I think you learn over the years you better have one because you just can't predict it. And obviously we're spoiled here because, playing all of our home games inside. But if you don't have one, you can get not necessarily embarrassed, but get caught off guard. So we will always have one anytime we play outside just and be ready to get to it at any moment's notice.
Todd Archer with ESPN. That's a big part of Zeke was his success on goal line, short yardage. How do you think you guys handled that with Tony yesterday, getting those scores? Did you kind of do it a different way with Tony than he did with Zeke, or how do you look at the production?
Well, I thought, Todd, you were going to go to Turp, our magic weapon. A real goal line back, okay, is Turp. Yeah, that's the main guy. That's how we kind of see it. No, like we've talked about, Tony is just an unbelievable competitor. And again, why do I go there? I go there because that's a little bit of what short yards and goal line running is. It's instincts, it's talent, but there's also a little bit of makeup and heart and desire. And again, the one I can remember the most clear was we run the little unbalanced toss sweep play, and he kind of gets outside of it, and he feels they did a nice job. They kind of strung it out and forced the ball back, and he just put his foot in the ground. But again, we have no questions he can do that. I felt like the second touchdown, the one we got in goal line personnel, again, Zach did a really good job coming around the edge. That was the one that kind of walked in off the edge. But like, he's ready for those challenges. And it was cool to see him get off to a great start. I'm just happy for him, coming back off the injury. I thought he ran so hard, and he really did so many things throughout the course of the game that didn't show up in the stat sheet. If you watch him, again, we've talked since I got up here in the spring and about sideboard and protections and securing things on your way out. There's some really cool clips you guys can go and find of him fitting on the outside of a guard and kind of putting Williams or Lawrence back onto the guard or the center. And all that stuff goes unnoticed by the stats, but when you see it, it's really cool that it comes to life, the things that we're coaching and preaching. And that's why we're so excited about just what he is as an overall football player.
Brian Saudis of The Athletic. Just kind of a two-part question. One, how did you feel after having no preseason operation between you, Mike, and Dak went? And then secondly, did it help the fact that you guys kind of entered low leverage situation in terms of the score and stuff, to where you guys were able to kind of work through all whatever and have kind of like a mini preseason, I guess, from later in the game? Yeah,
you're never sure how it's going to work out. I will say the cool thing, literally Dak calling that last preseason game actually was cool, because there was communication with us on the sideline about, hey, what do you like? What are we thinking here? Where are you going to go next? I thought overall the communication on the sideline was great. Again, with Mike and Dak, the process of all the move the ball periods that we have out in practice goes a long way. So unscripted practices where Mike's got the walkie-talkie, he's calling it, DQ's calling it, we're making adjustments, we're calling out coverages, we're saying things that we think we need to get to and things like that. Those go a long way. So one of the beauties of where we got to in training camp were some of those unscripted periods where it truly was called like a real game. And so all those reps, all those opportunities do add up after a while. And so I felt like for, first regular season game without the ones per se taking any reps, I thought it was very, very clean.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Let's talk about Turpin. Just your thoughts on how you guys utilized him on Sunday.
So Turp was a guy, at the end of the season last year, he wanted to be a little bit more involved. There's obviously a ton of natural ability there. What I love about Turp is just his passion for the game. He just loves to play the game. He just literally loves football, and I'm really proud of him for how he's learned to study the game and study the things that we're trying to ask him to do. I mean, you look at where we were able to move him around different spots last night, ask him to do different things, and for him to do it at a high level is really cool. I think he was in 4 or 5 different spots in our formation sets that we can have. When you give him the ball, there's always a chance that good things are going to happen. I wish he would have held on to the little run solution we threw out there, because that would have been fun to see as well. But just proud of him for what he did. And then again, he's always got great feedback. Just the color that he comes back with about what he saw, and man, there's a lot of guys over there, so I just turned it up. Is always good comedy on the sidelines. But I just love the way the guy plays the game, man. If you can't get fired up to watch him play football, man, you're at the wrong sporting event.
How do you help him get better with his football IQ and that kind of thing?
Just putting him in different situations, putting him in the backfield, putting him in extended situations. I will say a really cool thing. One of the things for us, and again, I'm big on things that go unnoticed, but put him in different spots. There's a really cool play. You guys should go dig it up in the fourth quarter about the brotherhood and what we have, this family culture that we have, not only just as a team, but as an offense. So we're getting ready to run a formation and a play, and Turp was playing a different spot. It was late in the game, and JT had done it more. And so JT was actually on the ball and Turp was inside. And JT's like, hey, dude, I got this. Hey, you move here and I move there. But the cool thing was Turp could have done it, and he has done it before, but JT was willing to say, hey, I've done this more, let me do that. And so, again, I think that speaks to the trust that these guys have in one another, and they're always going to look out for one another and make sure that our confidence is high.
John Michaud, The Athletic, on the big throw to CD, kind of what's Jake Ferguson's job there. It seemed like he was a big part of that play happening.
Yeah, so anytime you get in those condensed formations, right, there's a chance that the release pattern might have someone get in the way of somebody else potentially. And Jake was just running his route. And, you know, the guy just kind of ran into Jake. But when you get in those condensed formations, Jake has a route. He's running a route. And so I thought CD did a nice job. Again, he kind of stuck the guy inside, which got Adori's weight on his inside. And then when CD came out, obviously you saw what happened. He kind of ran into Jake. But, again, teams that play man-to-man, you know, they have to be really good at those combinations because there's a lot of different ways those three pieces can move.
Michael Gallagher, Dallas Morning News. Sorry that happened to Jake. He seemed very disappointed all that contact.
Yes.
Exactly. Your tight ends, they did some positive things in the run game. Obviously, it was mixed. What did you make overall of that young group and how it did?
Yeah, the run game stuff really jumped off the film. I mean, we ran some really cool gap schemes out of our bigger personnel groupings, and you watched those guys work in a pair set with it was Scooney and Henny. And then they were combination block at the front side, kind of trying to knock it down, and then Fergie was pulling. I mean, just some really, really beautiful combinations. One time I know a guy scraped over the top and Henny came off. One time Jake came off, kind of ricocheted through it. So I thought the run game stuff was terrific. It was a wet night, you know. We expect them to make those catches. They will make those catches. But the coolest thing I will say was the one that Henny had down in the red zone was just a beautiful picture of where I think we are right now as a passing attack. That was a tight window, and Henny was getting really doubled. The Dory was there, and the safety was coming, but Dak trusted him, and Dak threw it. And there's no question in my mind that come Sunday when we're playing the Jets, if it's that same window on a different concept, Dak's going to throw it again. Why? He trusts him. And where's that come from? That comes from the time spent on the field. That's from them making those type of throws. The cool things, you guys don't get to see all of it, but like when we're throwing routes to these guys, routes on air and stuff like that, you know, Babe can speak to, we're not just throwing the perfect ball. We're working different ball locations. And so it was a beautiful hold-up back shoulder throw to Henny, and it just kind of got on him. When he twisted his body, he wasn't able to pull it in. But, like, that's an awesome picture of the trust that's been developed among our skill group.
And on the front block on Tony's long one, where all three of them did it and Jake pulled, is that a good example, you feel like, of this offense, but dating back to last year, when there are three tight ends on the field at once, sometimes you can see four, but when there are three going on, you guys can be really versatile with what you're able to do from that attack?
Yeah, you go back and look at it. I mean, you see us sitting there in those, you know, really the quad formations and the three paired tight ends to one side and the receiver backside. You saw us getting empty out of that. So, like, these guys are all cool pieces because, again, Scooney, Jake, and Henny can do so many different things. One of the big third downs on the long touchdown drive to start the second half was a big personnel situation where we tried to spread people out expecting a certain coverage, and we're able to be very multiple with that. So those guys give you the flexibility, and then, of course, having the backs like Tony and Rico and Deuce and those guys certainly help in that regard.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. Another part of Zeke's game that is missing is pass protection. You guys integrated a lot of guys into the backfield. Dowdle, Pollard, even Hendershot got in there. What have you seen from that group? What have you liked from that group? And then what was the assessment in that department from last night?
Yeah, I thought for the most part, you know, they did a really good job. I spoke about Tony already. Just his understanding of, okay, who's my guy? And then where's my fit? So I thought he was terrific with that. We want to use all the guys. I mean, Henny had a couple really nice jobs where you saw him in the backfield scan. He had to pick up a strong safety blitz on one where Dak had a little bit of extra time, which was great. And then, of course, this defense that we played yesterday, I mean, they create issues. I mean, there's going to be exotics. There's going to be things. The new challenge this week was what were they going to do with Isaiah Simmons, right? Was he going to be inside? Was he going to be on the edge? And so I thought our guys did a really good job of communicating that. I thought Dak was masterful, him and Biotic, of just communicating the looks and saying, hey, let's do this here, let's do there. And then you saw it. It was good for us because when you see a point or a declaration and then you see the back move to get into position and do the things he needs to based off your declaration is when you know things are there's a confidence to what they were doing. And so again, wasn't the perfect night pass protection. Love that we came out of there with no sacks, but overall I thought based on the looks that we were going to see last night, we did a good job with it.
before the Giants called a timeout down there at the goal line, Deuce was the lone back. How do you kind of see his usage and whether it's up at the goal line, wherever on the field it is, where he would kind of fit into the equation in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, again, I think he's another cool piece like Turp, where we can move him around. He can do different things. I mean, in the backfield, he's obviously very dangerous. Coming out of the backfield as a route runner, he's very dangerous. He's got unbelievable ball skills, so he can split them out. He's just really another cool piece that gives us that multiplicity, like we were talking about the tight ends earlier. And so another guy, extremely football smart. You can put him in all kinds of different spots. And, there were certainly a bunch of things that we didn't get to just because the way the game ended up playing out and the time of possession battle and things like that, that we weren't able to get called and featured. But a really, really cool piece that's going to help us a lot this season in terms of Deuce.
The fullback has kind of been a position in flex a little bit in the NFL, but Mike has that history in Green Bay of using that. With Hunter, how do you kind of see that factoring into not him just being active, but being part of the game plan?
Yeah, a great question. And again, Hunter deserves a lot of credit. He, when we first got here, a little bit wide-eyed, trying to figure it all out. But I'm telling you, the last probably 2 weeks of training camp or the last 10 days of training camp in 9-on-7 periods, you saw this guy really doing a hell of a job being physical and striking. And again, I think he is just doing this. And he's been doing this for about 3 or 4 weeks. And he went in there yesterday and isolated a couple linebackers. And again, for those of us, all of us, putting myself, that have never done that, that is not a thankful job. You're going to go ram your head into a guy that's coming downhill to hit you. But he did a really good job with it. And again, another guy, really football smart, just beginning to tap the surface of what he can do. Because here's a guy that played really tight end and running back at North Dakota State. And now, I mean, you see what he can do for us as a fullback. And as you guys know, Mike loves fullbacks. So those questions will probably continue over the next course of the season.
Mike, you mentioned it already, but a lot that was part of your guys' plan, you ended up not needing to use just because of game script, the way it went. Moving that forward, I guess, one, how much do you think kind of went unused? I don't need to quantify it to us, but how much kind of was unused? And then two, what's the value of that moving forward? Not to have needed those things, will there be more unscattered looks to the Jets than there would be otherwise?
Yeah, I think it'd be unfair to try to say, what wasn't used. We did certainly, we were wise about what we wanted to use and what we showed and didn't show with some of our personnel packages and things like that. The cool thing is you've practiced those for really, in this case, 2 weeks, because really we started this prep 2 weeks ago. So those carry over nicely into the things that fit based on what the Jets do. And so I think that's definitely a benefit. But again, we want to be multiple. We want to make it hard for the defense. We want to roll personnel groupings. We want to use all of our pieces. They're just chess pieces, all they are. And so we want to be able to do that. And so, we'll slide over the ones that fit this week, and there'll probably be a number of those that do. The ones that don't, you don't remove them. You just put them on hold for another week to where they do fit, because obviously this defense is very different philosophically than the Giants, and that's just part of the adjusting that you have to do as a staff.
All righty.
Good deal. Thanks, guys.